Before the name Zulu shook the world, before rifles echoed across the valleys of Natal, before the red coats of the British ever saw these hills, there was a land that breathed in silence. Here, the earth spoke in thunder, the rivers whispered names older than kings, and among the scattered clans who lived upon this sacred land, destiny was about to rise, from rejection, from pain, from blood. This is the story of a people who turned survival into legend, and of one man whose name became power itself, Shaka Zulu. Long before the Zulu Kingdom stood as one, this land was home to hundreds of small clans. Nguni-speaking families spread across valleys and hills. They herded cattle, planted millet and sorghum, and lived in harmony with the rhythm of the land. Among these clans were the Mthethwa, the Ndwandwe, the Kwabe, and a small, modest group, the Zulu, descendants of a man named Zulu Kamalandela. The word Zulu meant heaven or sky, but at the time they were little more than a whisper among giants. Yet history has always loved small beginnings, for the smallest flame, when fed by rage and genius, can burn an empire to the ground. Around the year 1787, in the homestead of Chief Senzangakona, a child was born, Shaka, the son of the Zulu chief and a proud woman named Nandi. Their union was not blessed by the elders. To them, Nandi was a disgrace, her son a child of shame. When whispers turned to insults, when tradition turned to cruelty, Senzangakona sent Nandi and her child away. Exiled, humiliated, and despised, they wandered from clan to clan. But destiny often hides in suffering. What was meant to break him became the forge that shaped him. Shaka grew up among the Mthethwa under the protection of Chief Dingiswayo, a wise leader who saw something fierce in the young exile. Tall, disciplined, and intelligent, Shaka trained tirelessly, mastering the art of war like poetry. He learned that battle was not chaos, it was rhythm. He studied the movement of cattle, the dance of hunters, the silence before thunder, and from these he built a new way to fight. His peers mocked him, called him names, but Shaka answered with excellence. Every humiliation, every scar was stored deep in his heart, waiting for the day he would return, not as a victim, but as a storm. Dingiswayo taught Shaka that leadership was not just about the spear, it was about vision. He believed that unity was strength and that the scattered Nguni tribes could rise as one nation. But Shaka was thinking beyond even that. He dreamed not of unity, but of transformation. He saw a new kind of warrior, disciplined, fearless, and bound not by bloodlines, but by purpose. Yet fate would soon test them both. For in the shadows, rivals sharpened their spears, and the boy from exile was about to become the architect of an empire and the terror of a continent. In the year 1816, the world of the Nguni tribes trembled. Chief Senzangakona, the father who once cast his son aside, was dead, and from exile Shaka returned, not as a beggar, but as a warrior baptized by pain. With the support of his mentor, Dingiswayo, and the loyalty of a small band of warriors, Shaka took the throne of the Zulu. But his vision was greater than the chieftain's hut. He sought to forge a kingdom that would shake the very earth. And so began the reign of Shaka Senzangakona, the Lion of the Zulu. In an age when tribes fought in loose skirmishes and fled after a few spears were thrown, Shaka rewrote the very science of war. He shortened the spear into a stabbing weapon, the Ikalwa, named for the sound it made leaving a man's body. He trained his warriors to fight in tight formations. The bull's horn. The chest engaged the enemy. The horns surrounded them. The loins, a reserve, waited, patient and deadly. Under his command, the Zulu no longer fought as scattered men. They moved as one living creature. Shaka drilled them day and night, barefoot across thorny fields until pain became strength and fear became obedience. To his enemies, he became a nightmare. To his people, he became a god of war. From the heart of Zululand, Shaka unleashed his fury. The Yandwandwe, the Kwabe, the Hlubi, all fell before the black tide of his armies. Villages that resisted were erased. Clans that submitted became part of something larger, the nation of the Zulu. Across southern Africa, the earth quaked with the footsteps of his warriors. The wars of conquest spread far beyond his borders. The great Mifakine, the scattering. Refugees fled in every direction, carrying stories of Shaka, the man who conquered not just lands but minds. But behind every victory, there was a cost. Fields burned, families broken, the land bled with the ambition of one man. In the silence after the storm, mothers wept for sons who never came home. In 1827, the only heart that had ever softened Shaka's, his mother Nandi, died. Her death tore through him like a blade. In grief, the king descended into madness. He ordered no crops to be planted that year. No milk was to be drunk. Thousands were executed in mourning. Men, women, even unborn children. The lion that once protected his pride had turned his claws inward. Even his most loyal warriors began to whisper. The man who once united them through courage was now dividing them through terror. And so in the heart of his triumph, Shaka Zulu became a prisoner of his own power.
The moon over Zululand. The royal kraal lies quiet, too quiet. Warriors move like shadows through the night.
Power is a lonely mountain. The higher a man climbs, the fewer hearts beat beside his. By 1828, the Lion of the Zulu stood alone. In the shadows, his half-brothers, Dingaan and Malangana, whispered of freedom. To them, Shaka's madness had become a curse on the land. On a silent night in September, the brothers approached their king. He greeted them without suspicion, for blood, he thought, could never betray blood. But in that moment, the lion was struck. Spears plunged into the flesh of a god, and the thunder that followed was not from the sky. As he fell, Shaka looked into the darkness and whispered, "You will not rule long. The earth that drinks my blood will curse you all." After Shaka's death, Dingaan took the throne. At first, he promised peace, a gentler rule after years of blood. But peace did not come easily. Shaka's ghost lingered, not in the night, but in the minds of the people. Every chant, every fire, every shadow reminded them of the fallen king. Fear and guilt ate at Dingaan's heart. He executed rivals, purged villages, and trusted no one. And in 1837, fate brought new strangers into his land. Men in wagons, armed with rifles and prayers. They called themselves Voortrekkers, Boers, Dutch settlers fleeing British rule. To the Zulu, they were ghosts of a different kind, pale, determined, and armed with thunder. The Boers came to negotiate. Their leader, Piet Retief, sought land and peace. Dingaan welcomed him with smiles and a feast. But trust is fragile when born in fear. Days later at Umgungundlovu, Dingaan turned on his guests. At his signal, the Zulu seized the Boers. Bulalani Abatakathi, kill the wizards. Retief and his men were slaughtered, their bodies left to rot under the sun. In vengeance, the Voortrekkers gathered. On December 16, 1838, at a river that would forever bear witness, Blood River, they made their stand. 10,000 Zulu warriors faced fewer than 500 Boers. The Zulu fought with courage beyond words, but rifles tore through their ranks like fire through dry grass. The river turned red that day. Over 3,000 Zulu lay dead, and the Boers vowed that their victory was a sign from God. In the aftermath of the slaughter, Dingaanese rule crumbled. His brother, Mpande, seized power with Boer support. The once mighty Zulu Kingdom was now caught between two worlds, the old ways of the ancestors and the iron will of empires. In 1840, the British annexed Natal. The drums of the Zulu fell silent beneath the thunder of foreign guns. But among them stood a new generation, men who still remembered the roar of their fathers. The blood of Shaka still flowed in their veins. And one day another lion would rise, Cetshwayo Kampande, the last great king of an unconquered Zulu nation. From the ashes of betrayal rose a new dawn. Cetshwayo Kampande, son of Mpande, nephew of Shaka, was born of blood and legacy. Unlike his father, Cetshwayo understood both the wisdom of his ancestors and the power of the white man's guns. He knew that to protect the land, the Zulu would have to evolve or die. By 1873, he became king. The nation rallied once more beneath the roar of the lion. But far beyond the hills of KwaZulu, another power was watching, an empire that stretched across oceans and claimed the world as its prize. In 1879, the British Empire demanded what it had no right to demand, that the Zulu disband their army, submit their sovereignty, and bow to the crown. Cetshwayo refused. To the Zulu, the land was not property, it was blood. To surrender it was to betray the ancestors. In January 1879, British troops crossed the Buffalo River into Zululand, without declaration, without mercy. The invasion of Zululand had begun. On January 22, 1879, 20,000 Zulu warriors encircled the British camp at Isandlwana. The British, confident and unprepared, believed themselves untouchable. When the horns closed, the lion struck. In less than 2 hours, over 1,300 British soldiers lay dead, their camp destroyed, their pride shattered. Isandlwana, the day the world trembled. It was the greatest defeat the British Empire ever suffered at the hands of an African army. But victory came at a price, for across the river, vengeance was already stirring. That same night, a small British outpost at Rorke's Drift faced the storm. 4,000 Zulu warriors descended. 150 men defended. The Zulu fought with unstoppable courage, but rifles and walls of fire turned the battle into slaughter. The British held their ground, and news of their survival became legend. The Empire took revenge with fire and iron. They returned with thousands of troops, machine guns, and horses. Village after village fell, and by July 1879, Ulundi, the royal kraal of the Zulu, was reduced to ashes. The lion was captured, shackled and sent to London, paraded before a queen who ruled half the earth. The kingdom fell, but the people did not. The spirit of the Zulu endured, through oppression, through apartheid, through the fires of modern South Africa. Shaka's dream was never conquest. It was unity, discipline, and pride. The Zulu nation remains a symbol of strength, resilience, and identity. Even today, the drums still echo in the valleys of KwaZulu-Natal. They remind us that a people who remember their ancestors can never truly be conquered. The Zulu Kingdom was forged in fire, scarred by betrayal and tested by empire. Yet its spirit stands eternal, roaring across generations. History remembers the victors, but heritage remembers the souls who refuse to kneel. If the story of the Zulu Kingdom moved you, honor it, share it, comment your thoughts, and keep the flame of our ancestors alive.